What is up, friends? Rob here, the Medicare Minister, and I'm back with a brand new Spitting Fire Leadership Podcast interview for all of you today. And I'm with my man, Mr. Ryan Wimmer. Ryan, will you say what's up to everybody?
What's up, guys? Hey, thanks for having me on today, Rob.
Absolutely. I know Ryan's going to spit some serious fire today and really bring it and share with you some things that I believe are going to help you become the leader that I believe God has called all of you to be. But before we dive into that, as always, I want to remind you to please like, comment, subscribe below. That way you're notified every time we drop fresh content like this. And so, Ryan, thanks once again for being on. And I do this every time I have a guest on. I just like to start with a little intro, welcome, and a little bit about your story, maybe share a little bit of the past, some of the transition up to what you're doing today.
Yeah, definitely. Really appreciate you having me on today, Rob. I'm looking forward to it, man. But yeah, guys, so for me, again, my name's Ryan. Me and my wife, Alicia, we run Freedom and Faith Agency. We started in insurance back in 2018. Before that, my wife was a nurse practitioner. I was a general contractor building houses. And then we kind of came together and just wanted to jump all into our own business. So we transitioned into the financial services industry.
Awesome. And so tell us a little bit about freedom and faith. Where did those two words come and what do they mean for your agency?
Yeah, definitely, man. So freedom, when we started the company, we wanted every agent to have the freedom to grow their agency however they wanted to, right? And our goal was to just serve them, help them hit those goals. So that was the meaning behind the word freedom. Faith, we are Christians, we are a believer. Now we do empower everybody in their own beliefs too. You know, what we believe doesn't have to be what you believe. But for faith, you know, everybody has to have faith in something, whether it's your God, yourself. So for us, the word faith really meant, hey, we've got this company, we've got this vision, but there's a much higher power than us that wants to drive it. And we just have to try to drive it as best as he wants us to.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with that. It's interesting, isn't it? If you're talking about faith, how some people will say they don't have faith, but in reality, when we go get in this vehicle here in just a little bit, we have faith that it's going to take us from point A to point B. And I believe that, Ryan, because, and there again, as Ryan said, this is what I believe. You may believe something different, but I'm not ashamed of what I believe. And so I believe the God of the universe instilled in us something that would cause us to have faith in something, obviously in him, right? But there's something about us that we have faith to really believe and want to be something in this life. And so I love the freedom and the faith. I want to go back to one thing you said in your brief little intro there. What is one thing that being a contractor did or helped you to become the insurance agency owner you are today? Because when I think about contracting, I think about foundation, framing, you know, all the parts that it takes to build a structure. Is there one trait or one characteristic that you took away from a contractor that has transitioned into you being an agency owner?
Absolutely, man. And that would just be hard work. You know, when you're building houses and you've got, you know, 15 projects going on at one time, 15 different customers, you know, a lot of money's involved in that process. Right. So for me, man, it'd be hard work. You know, I'd be up early in the morning at the job site by 7, checking things, doing this, you know, getting off really late, driving all over the place. So transitioning from that business, you know, it's funny. Usually if you're successful in one business, you can be successful in pretty much any industry with those principles. But yeah, man, definitely hard work.
Yeah, absolutely. And let me ask you something. You talked about being, you know, in business with your wife. She was a nurse practitioner. You were a contractor. You know, there may be some people that when this drops in a few weeks that are watching this that go, you know, my wife and I want to take that leap of faith. What is one of the biggest challenges that you and your wife have ran into in regards to starting your own agency? So I want to start there. And then part B to that question, I want to talk about some adversity and challenges because we like to keep it real, right? There's some challenges, but also what is maybe one of the biggest or greatest blessings of working together as well?
Yeah, definitely. So, I would say the biggest challenge is you really, when you've got to be on the same page as each other,
Mm-hmm.
really, two spouses, right? They should be on the same page, even if they're not starting their own business, even if it's just W-2, what's your
Right.
career goals, what's mine, bring those together. But for us, it was getting on the same page, and it wasn't necessarily a challenge. It actually, initially was, but then it turned into this blessing of we're on the same page. Our family's going in the right direction. Our company's going in the right direction. So it's really having that tough conversation of sitting down and saying, what do you want out of life? What do I want out of life? And how do you bring it together, right? Having those hard conversations is just key.
Sure. And biggest takeaway or biggest blessing, what do you believe the biggest blessing of working together, coming from two different industries, being one, as the Bible says? What do you think the biggest blessing has been?
Time and connection. I would tie those two together because when she was a nurse and I was a contractor, I was in the Marine Corps before that, right? So our time together has always been sporadic. We've got three children, a 7-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a 2-year-old. We've got our fourth baby on the way. Wow. And we would just tag team parent. I would work from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. I'd come home. She'd leave the house at 6 p.m. and work till 6 a.m. and we just never saw each other. So being able to start our own thing, now we can set our schedule. It's just been a big blessing having time.
So once again, people that are watching this, our audience is very diverse because we interview different people, leaders in different spaces. What do you think the greatest challenge is in your experience, maybe either personally or for the agents that you train, that you've seen people have when it comes to wanting freedom and faith? Because if you interviewed everybody, I would say 10 out of 10 people would say, yeah, I want freedom. And yeah, I want to have faith that I can do it. But what is one of the biggest obstacles or hurdles that you've seen in people that have kept them from getting that freedom and faith?
Thinking they deserve it. That's the biggest thing is a lot of, and I don't want to just tie it to insurance, but just like you said, as business leaders as a whole in your career, people will hit a new level, right? They'll hit a new income level. They'll start getting what they want. And then it's kind of like Ed Milet always says that people have a thermostat, if your thermostat's at 75 degrees and now you're at 85, your life naturally wants to bring you back down. So for me, man, I see that challenge as most people will hit that level of success, but then they kind of start going back to their normal habits and routines. So just feeling that they deserve it.
Yeah, I totally agree. I did a video the other day that said you won't outgrow or out-earn your identity, right? And I love that because as a former pastor, someone who's been in ministry for a long time, there's this myth sometimes, and I say myth because it is a false belief, and I don't necessarily know if we preach it from the pulpits in America, but there's this very predominant belief that being a Christian means you can't have wealth and prosperity. Now, time out. Let me put a little disclaimer here. I'm not a prosperity gospel guy because I do believe there's an unhealthy version of that. But why do you think so many Christians struggle with wealth and prosperity is in your experience, in your opinion?
Yeah, I think it's because most people come from a spot where they've never had it. Their families never had it. Their parents never had it. So when they get it, number one, they feel like they can't get it. But then if they actually do get it, it's like, what do you do with that? The saying of money just makes you more of who you are is so true. So I think a lot of Christians deal with that because they feel like if they become successful, they are on a different level than everybody else. But really what it comes down to, man, is as a Christian, it's your duty to become successful so you can take that and impact other people to become successful too. So it's just a misconception.
It's interesting you say that because I'm a content junkie. So although I do a podcast, I watch tons of podcast interviews because I'm a nerd and love to study people and the questions they ask. And I was watching one of my favorite podcasters interview a pastor, and he said, wouldn't it be awesome? And this goes to the point that you just made, is if we would just stop being churches that are always asking for money, right? There's nothing wrong with that because God tells us to give through the church. But he says, what if we started becoming churches that created ventures that generated the income to ultimately achieve the vision?
Yeah.
Right. And so I think about like entrepreneurs like you guys, like, wouldn't it be awesome to be, if the church just had this revolution, this paradigm shift that said, let's get with people like the Ryans of the world and let's create ventures that generated income that would ultimately fund the vision, reach more people for God, which ultimately brings more glory to
Absolutely.
God. Do you believe that as well?
Oh, I think it's crucial. I think we have to. I think that by doing that, what you start, it's funny you said that, Rob. I was sitting in church just a few weeks ago, actually, and I was looking at our company, kind of how we were dedicating our mission. And I was looking around and I was thinking, who do I want to surround myself with? And I'm looking at these people worshiping God, listening to music, praising it. And then I had this thought to my head that, everybody here is on a Sunday enjoying life, but chances are Monday through Saturday, it's a struggle financially. You got to buy diapers, you got to pay car insurance, you got a mortgage, right? And most people, it's just unfortunate. Most people are stressed out about that. And for me, in the church and everything, like just like you said, if we could create a venue, create an avenue to where things are commingled more, I think that you really could start seeing a significant difference and not just people, but our whole country, I think, would thrive off of something like that.
Yeah. Amen. I totally agree. So I want to go back to one thing you said about people thinking they deserve it, right? Because we've heard it said, you consume a lot of content. You're in some of the same circles and probably listen to some of the same things, read some of the same books over and over. We hear this regurgitated and replayed about we'll only reproduce what we actually think we're worth. For you, what was one tip you could give someone right now that would help them in the direction to really start believing that they earn, that they deserve it?
Yeah, man, you're never going to feel like you deserve anything until you do it for another person. For me, when we first started our business, it was all geared towards let's pay off credit card debt and student loan debt, but it was all about us. And once you hit that income goal, once you hit that, debt-free goal, you kind of sit there and you're like, well, what's next? You feel good, but you don't. For me, I didn't really start feeling like I deserved it until I started having other people say, thank you so much for helping us hit that goal. So for a tip for somebody out there, you will feel like you deserve it the minute you're doing it for other people, and don't expect anything in return. Just know it's going to come to you. What you give is what you get type of a mindset.
Absolutely. I truly believe our lives will never make sense until we start making a difference in the lives of other people. But here's the thing. It's really when you tap into out of this world generosity that, man, it takes you to another whole level. So I know a little bit of your story because we've talked by phone and met in person this past summer. And you shared a little bit of some of the adversity and struggles that you've been through. To what you feel comfortable with sharing today. How has adversity shaped you to the person you are today? How did it prepare you to be this freedom and faith agency owner?
Yeah, it's funny. Initially, when you go through adversity there, Rob, you get kind of mad, right? You get kind of upset about it.
Yeah.
And that's how it was for us. Kind of a brief story, right? My wife hit partnership in a different platform faster than anybody's ever hit it. We ended up having some disagreements there, transitioned away from it. And then at that point, it was like a make it or break it type of thing. It was either, hey, you've got just shy of 100 agents. So how do you create a platform that they can thrive in, that your ethics aren't challenged, that you can really provide them with a future opportunity? So when we transitioned away from that company and created our own, that adversity at first, the way we were treated, I think was anger, resentment towards it. And it was like this, I'm a former Marine. So it was like this challenge, like, hey, okay, let's do it type of mentality. Now, though, what I realized, I'm actually very grateful for it, because that adversity, all that pressure, all this stuff that went on, legalities, all these issues, right? All that pressure really allowed me to see what we're capable of. It basically forced me to take a role that God wanted me to take before I was ready to take it. And I think that adversity is something that you shouldn't shy away from. You should actually learn to embrace it. You should thrive in it.
Yeah, I definitely think you have a perspective, a choice every day to either let it be a prison or a platform, right? That's really what
Exactly.
Ryan is saying today. And listen, if you're watching today, some of you have let adversity, the anger, the bitterness, the unforgiveness be a prison. And God is saying, wait a minute, to you today, I can do my best work in you if you allow me to during this storm in this season. So that brings me to this next point real quickly. Is I've heard it said that a lot of times you can be doing the right thing in the wrong place. And that sounds like kind of what you were going through, right? That you knew it was a passion. Your wife had achieved these ranks, and it doesn't make you better and them bad or vice versa. Mm-hmm. It just means that particular thing that you went through now has positioned you in the right place and doing the right thing. Okay. Yeah. So how important is culture to you when it comes to your organization?
It is so important. It's really everything, Rob, because what I've realized is people don't work somewhere for money. They don't work somewhere, for recognition, all that stuff doesn't matter. Yes. But ultimately people work with people they like. People work with people that they can grow with, sure, that they have a family, a relationship with. I mean, sure, if you're, thinking back, company culture really trumps everything else, right? You could have the worst product, the worst comp levels, whatever it is. But if you have a great culture, if people like, and they like you, they feel like they're with you, that type of community will triumph over somebody that has all the resources, all the tools, all the money. It will triumph over that every day of the week. And just like you said, that first point you made, Rob, is, you might be in the right career, right industry, but just in the wrong company or wrong section. That doesn't mean that company's bad, right? That company that we left, yeah. Hey, I have a ton of friends, dear friends to me, that still work over there. They thrive. They do well. I love them. Wish them all nothing but the best. But yeah, for us, it was just, hey, God was like, I want you to do this, and I think a lot of people on this call listening to this, Rob, are probably in a similar situation where sure, they're here, but in the back of their mind, they know they're supposed to be over here. And that doesn't mean there's something wrong there. That just means that you have another path to take.
Yeah. And I totally agree. When it comes to culture, when it comes to, cultivating that right soil, that healthy things grow in the soil. And so I've been a big believer of that, been a big advocate, a proponent of leaders generating, I try to say it this way, the heart soil, right? Our heart soil as leaders will ultimately transition into the organizations we lead. So we got to make sure that our heart soil, if you will, is healthy and is good. One question I want to ask as well is, what is one leadership trait, or if you have multiple, but what is maybe one that comes to the surface, to the top, that you've learned, you've leaned into, and you lead from?
Yeah, I think with that, my biggest trait, what I try to lead by there, Rob, is you have to go to war for your people before you can expect them to go to war for you.
That's good.
And I think so many leaders, especially as you start building a company where you might be a little bit disengaged from new people coming on, right? They forget that. They forget that ultimately, it doesn't matter what career you're in, your leadership trait, if your people don't see you going to war for them every day to get them better resources, a better opportunity, you're constantly improving things for them, you can't expect people to fight with you. And if you can build that culture, that warrior, like the Spartan type mentality. Right. I mean, that's to me the most crucial leadership trait to have.
Right. Awesome. I ask everybody this that comes on the podcast, if there was one word that you could use to describe yourself, what would that one word be?
Relentless.
Okay. I've heard that said many, many times. And so I want to lean into this a little bit more. What is it about relentless or being relentless that's helped you get to the point that where you're at now?
Yeah, it's just, I'm never going to quit. You could take this house, for example, right? We just bought this new house. It's our dream house. I know in the back of my mind, hey, we might be on vacation wherever this house could burn down tomorrow. Mm-hmm. Is it going to derail me? Is it going to upset me? No. Will it hurt for like 5 minutes? Yes. But ultimately I'll turn around and rebuild it the next week.
Right.
Same thing goes with your company, right? If you have a company, one of your top sales agents, they're going to leave. One of your Someone's going to do you wrong, right? Something's going to happen. All these issues are going to come up. But for me, man, being relentless is just not so much dealing with the issues, it's how I view it. I'm the type of person, Rob, and it's funny that I'm wired differently than other people. I feel my best. Like I feel the most comfortable. I'm the most less stressed out when there's a lot of issues going on. Like when I'm in a stressful situation, like that's when I thrive. If everything's going good in my life, it's kind of like, what's next? Where do I go to next type of thing. So yeah, man, for me, it's just being relentless in the fact of never being content. If you reached one income level, hey, you can always reach the next. So yeah, man, just always trying to go for new things.
So what was it in you? You said you were wired that way. Was there anything specific, like a defining moment in your life that helped you adopt this perspective of life is happening for me, not to me? Can you think of anything in your life, a book you read, a mentor, a coach, a conference, a call, a YouTube video, whatever the case may be? Was there a defining moment in your life that helped you begin to adopt more of that perspective, or has that just always been you?
No, definitely not. So I was 17 years old and I was getting ready to go to college, right? I was coming up on my senior year, realized college was not the thing for me. I signed up, enlisted into the Marine Corps infantry. And when you do that, you have to go through a delayed entry program where you sign up and then like a few months later, you usually ship out to boot camp. Well, in between that phase of from when I signed up to when I left for boot camp, we had a county fair. I grew up in Buffalo, New York, a small town called Alden, New York. And we had a fair. I went there with the Marine recruiter, who I'm still good friends with to this day. And I was there just as like the new and signed up guy. I didn't prove myself yet. And I was setting stuff up. Like, we set up a pull-up bar, all these different things. Well, there was an older gentleman had came up to the tent where we were handing stuff out at. And he looked at me and he looked at the recruiter and he said, that guy could never be a Marine. He's way too small. Right. Wow. And at that point, I was like 150 pounds, string bean. I ain't much better now. Right. But that's basically what I looked like. I was, super skinny, did not look strong, couldn't do a lot of pull-ups type of thing. And I'll never forget when he said that. Instantly in my head, it just clicked like, I'm about to prove you wrong, right? I went to boot camp, became a squad leader, graduated at the top of it. That defining moment, the minute I heard him utter those words, I just knew like, I'm going to do whatever it takes to win after that. And it's just transpired into everything else.
That's an interesting story you bring up because myself included, I think many people watching this, we tend to adopt the labels that people try to put on us, right? Mm-hmm. We tend to do that. And listen, if you're watching this today, don't accept the labels that people are trying to put on you, because you have a choice to either adopt them or to go, you know what? That's not who I am. I know that the God of the universe has called me to be more in this life. And it sounds like that's what you did, that you said, you know what? I know there's more for me out there. And because you took that action, and you made that choice that day, it sounds like it caused a ripple effect in your life.
Yeah, absolutely. Ever since then, every time I've ever got hit with adversity, it was just, I go right back to that moment. And I think the key defining thing for that, Rob, is I've had moments before that where I didn't respond in that way. Maybe I didn't prove myself, but in that one instance, I actually did prove that I could become a Marine, do all this stuff. And then you go back to that confidence that you develop in that one scenario. And once you do it one time, it doesn't matter what you face next. You just you keep doing it.
Yeah. And I feel like I need to stop here and just say this and look in the camera to somebody watching this today, is that don't let anybody put the label on you that you're nobody, right? That you're insignificant, because here's the good news. The good news is we serve a God who specializes in making somebodies out of nobodies, right? And that's so awesome to know that. And we talked about that on your call last week, of just that all of heaven, man, wants us to win. And that's why I have faith, man, because I don't serve a God who's trying to zap me every day and is not for me, but I serve a God and a creator that wants us to win, and win in such a way that we make a difference in the life of others. That's what you said earlier. but also in such a way that he gets all the credit for it. And so real quickly, as we get ready to wrap up today, tell me some ways that your faith has played a part in your agency.
Yeah, this might be hard to describe, but I think you're going to know where I'm going with this, Rob.
Okay.
When we built Freedom and Faith, okay, we were at a point where past company had shut off income, basically, right? In the insurance world, that's, hey, you get put as earned. So
right,
put as earned, and I guess the reasoning behind it was dedicated towards, hey, when you agree with what we want you to agree with, we'll put your money back on. At that point, we were making $70,000, $80,000 a month in that agency. And my wife looked at me and she's like, I'm done. We're not doing this. Like, no more. Right. So we decided to transition away. Well, why could we do that? Like, why could we put all that on the line? Just be like, no, thank you. We're going to go do this. And know in the back of our head that it's still going to work out. That comes back to ultimately, just like you said, Rob, having faith. Like, how has God played a role in this business? He played a role in this business because I just had this feeling that he was like, I don't care what you do. Stop doing that. Go over here and just trust me. Yes, it'll be hard, but I'll make it work. And in the back of our heads, that's what we really believed. And when you believe that, it doesn't matter what you set out to do. You're going to win if you have that unwavering faith about you. Sure.
No, that's a great story. And I believe that as well, is that it's interesting that you had that much faith in yourself. And if you're watching today, listen, maybe you don't have enough faith in yourself today. You need to get around people like the Ryans of the world, and until you do, sometimes we need our hands held up, if you will. Sometimes we need to be in a tribe. And that's why it's so important that you take an audit of your friendship circle, in my opinion, often. Right? That you make sure that you're not giving people VIP access that need to be in the nosebleeds. It doesn't make them bad or you better. This is not a personal thing as much as it is a lot of your success depends on the tribe that you hang out with. So as we wrap up today, what is some advice, Ryan, that you would give to maybe someone who's watching this today who just says, I want to bet on myself, but I'm just afraid? I just feel like like we talked about earlier, my family, I didn't come from a line of entrepreneurs, or, maybe there's been some haters out there. We all have haters. Welcome to the business, right? We all have haters. But what is some advice, like something that comes to mind that you could just speak life into those individuals today watching this?
Yeah. I think that's such a great question, Rob. But my tips for people would be this: if you're a person of faith, prove it. Okay. Prove it.
That's good. Yeah.
And a lot of people, believe in God. Not a lot of people prove it. And so that would be my number one tip there, is if you have something on your mind and it's been on your mind for a while, not something like you just thought of it yesterday, right? But if you've had this idea on your mind for a while, that's a clear sign that you need to act on it.
Sure.
And just do it. Think about all the other stuff later, right? Like when we started our company, Rob, when we've done pretty much anything out, when I signed up for the Marine Corps, all these different things.
Right.
I wasn't thinking about like what's going to happen. I just had an idea and I acted on it. So biggest tip number one is to just, when you think of something, just act on it. Number two, man, I would say is life is extremely short. And you do not want to be the person when you wake up, you're 80, 85 years old, 90 years old, and you look back at your life and think, man, I had that idea, but I never did anything about it. For me, I would rather risk everything that I have. I'd put it all on the line so that when I'm that age, I could at least look back and be like, yeah, I tried that, but I failed awfully. But at least you have that idea of trying it. So the biggest tip for somebody, man, if you're delayed in that, quit thinking so much about it and just act on it.
Yeah, no, I think that's really good. And I like to call it taking massive imperfect action. No matter how imperfect that action may be initially, just do it and bet on yourself. And listen, you're your most important commodity, right? The best investment you can make is investing in yourself. So Where can people find you? Are you on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram?
Yeah. So I'm not a TikToker, but I feel like I have to be now that they like collaborated it with Facebook. So it's like all jumbled together now. So, but yeah, I'm on Facebook. I am on Instagram. And then we also have a YouTube channel as well.
Awesome. Well, listen, man, I've enjoyed you being on the podcast today. You were bringing some serious fire today. I continue to pray blessings over you and your agency and your wife and your family. And if you're watching this today, the reason I do this is because I want to be able to put fresh wind in your sails, right? Because this thing, Ryan will tell you this thing called life is hard sometimes, right? There's a lot of haters out there. God never promised us a get out of jail free card when it comes to adversity. And so I pray that something that Ryan said today, something that we talked about, as we do every week with leaders in different industries, pushes you to believe in yourself and to go one more day and not give up on the dreams and the goals that I believe God has for you. And so I just want to thank you once again, Ryan, for coming on. Thank you guys for watching today. Once again, please like, comment, subscribe, share this with someone who you believe needs to hear this today. And listen, I believe God's called all of you to be a leader. You may not be on the stages of this world, but you are leading people, whether you see it or not, in some way, shape, or fashion. So God bless you guys. Make it an awesome day, and we'll talk to you soon.